Good morning. Good morning, everyone, and good to see you all here today. So, in the United States, this is Thanksgiving week, a holiday with the focus on gratitude. So I would like to start by expressing gratitude for the Buddha's teachings that we're about to discuss, and also gratitude for all of you and others who show up on Saturday to support one another's practice. The practice of the Buddha way, including my practice. So thank you for being here, all of you. Well, we have been discussing the Heart Sutra, but I'm going to take a little detour today. On Thursday, I was asked to speak to a world religions class at the community college about Buddhism. Now, they had already been given lectures by their professor in sort of the fundamental teachings of the Buddha. But I was brought there as someone who practices these teachings and to answer questions. So the students were asked to submit questions in advance. And one of the questions submitted was this one. Can you explain why Buddhists believe we have no soul? Can you explain why Buddhists believe we have no soul? That was the question that I received. And giving that question its due actually was a bit of a project. I was trying to think, well, how do I respond to that? And I got into material that I hadn't reviewed either at all or not in some time that I thought related to the Heart Sutra. So I think this is relevant. It's a relevant detour and gives some background and context for what we have been talking about. Well, first of all, I addressed the why do Buddhists believe part of the question by, well, saying that people who practice Buddhism believe all kinds of things, and it's not a monolithic group. There are controversies within the Buddhist community about a number of issues, either related to the teachings or otherwise. So it's like any other group of people. There are different perspectives. But then I needed to get into this part about having no soul. Now, I know what the student was referring to. The student was referring to a fundamental teaching of the Buddha, which in the Pali language is Sabbe Dhamma Anatta. Sabbe Dhamma Anatta. Sabbe, all, Dhamma, phenomena, Anatta, are not self, or no self, or non-self. depending on how it's translated. And the Buddha talked about this in various ways. So I would like to, over the next few minutes, go to some of the teachings of the Buddha that relate to this topic. And then we'll try to put it all into some kind of package at the end. One of the suttas, one of the early Buddhist teachings recorded in the Pali language, is entitled, Is There a Self? And this is, for those of you who want to look it up, it's in the Connected Discourses 44.10. Then the wanderer, Vacchagotta, approached the Blessed One and said to him, "How is it now, Master Gautama? Is there a self?" When this was said, the Blessed One was silent. "Well, then, Master Gautama, is there no self?" And a second time, the Blessed One was silent. And then the wanderer, Vacchagotta, the wandering seeker, rose from his seat and departed. Then, not long after the wanderer had left, Venerable Ananda, one of the Buddha's close disciples, said to the Blessed One, "Why is it, Venerable Sir, that when the Blessed One was questioned by the wanderer, he did not answer?" Well, the Buddha replied, "If, Ananda, when I was asked by Vacchagotta, is there a self? If I had answered, there is a self, this would have been siding with those who are eternalists. In other words, believe in a fixed, permanent self or a soul that passes from body to body indefinitely over time. And if I was asked by him, is there no self? I had answered, there is no self. This would have been siding with those who are annihilationists. In other words, who believe that the self is essentially identical with the body and disappears, dies, is no longer present at the death of the body. Materialists, we might call them. If, Ananda, when I was asked by the wanderer, is there a self? I had answered, there is a self. Would this have been consistent on my part with the arising of the knowledge that all phenomenon are non-self? No, Venerable Sir. And if, when I was asked by him, is there no self? I had answered, there is no self. The wanderer, already confused, would have fallen into even greater confusion, thinking, it seems that the self I formerly had does no longer exist. So the Buddha remained silent on the issue of the presence or absence of a self in this sutta. And in another sutta, and this is from the Middle Discourses, number 72, the wayward sort of fall guy, Vacchagotta, shows up again, the seeker. And he went up to the Buddha, he exchanged greetings, and polite conversation, and then he got to the questions that he was interested in. Mr. Gautama, is this your view? The cosmos is eternal. This is the only truth. Anything else is futile. Well, that's not my view, Vacha. Then is this your view? The cosmos is not eternal. This is the only truth. Anything else futile. That's not my view. Then is this your view? The cosmos is finite. This is the only truth. Anything else is futile. That's not my view, Vacha. Then is this your view? The cosmos is infinite. This is the only truth. Anything else is futile. That's not my view. Then is this your view? The soul and the body are the same thing. This is the only truth. Anything else is futile. That's not my view. Then is this your view? The soul and the body are different things. This is the only truth. Anything else is futile. No, that's not my view, Vacha. Then is this your view? A realized one, a Buddha, still exists after death. This is the only truth. Anything else is futile. That's not my view, Vacha. And then is this your view? A realized one no longer exists after death. This is the only truth. Everything else is futile. Well, that's not my view, Vacha. Then is this your view? A realized one both still exists and no longer exists after death. No, that's not my view. Then is this your view? A realized one neither still exists nor no longer exists after death. That's not my view, Vacha. Master Gautama, when asked these 10 questions, you say that's not my view. Seeing what drawback do you avoid all these conditions? Seeing by what drawback do you avoid all of these convictions? And the Buddha replied, each of these convictions is the thicket of views, the desert of views, the twist of views, the dodge of views, the fetter of views. They're beset with suffering, distress, anguish, and fever. They don't lead to disillusionment, dispassion, cessation, peace, insight, awakening, and extinguishment. Seeing this drawback, I avoid all these convictions. But does Mr. Gautama have any convictions at all? A realized one, he responded, has done away with convictions. For a realized one has seen, such is form, such is the origin of form, such is the ending of form, such is feeling, such is the origin of feeling, such is the ending of feeling, such is perception, such is the origin of perception, such is the ending of perception. Such are formations, such is the origin of formations, such is the ending of formations. Such is consciousness, such is the origin of consciousness, such is the ending of consciousness. That's why a realized one is freed from the ending, fading away, cessation, is freed with the ending, fading away, cessation, giving up, and letting go of all conceiving, all churning, all I-making, mind-making, or underlying tendency of conceit. And finally, there's another sutta, and this is from the Middle Discourses, number 2. It's a selection from it. And here the Buddha is talking about It's a rather long sutta, and I won't read the whole thing, but there's a selection where he's talking about those things that are unfit for attention, those things unfit for attention. And he says, this is how a person attends inappropriately. Was I in the past? Was I not in the past? What was I in the past? How was I in the past? Having been what? What was I in the past? Shall I be in the future? Shall I not be in the future? What shall I be in the future? How shall I be in the future? Having been what? What shall I be in the future? Or else he is inwardly perplexed about the immediate present. Am I? Am I not? What am I? How am I? Where has this being come from? Where is it bound? As he attends inappropriately in this way, one of 6 kinds of views arise. The view that I have a self arises in him as true and established, or the view I have no self, or the view it is precisely by means of self that I perceive self, or the view it is precisely by means of self that I perceive not self, or the view it is precisely by means of not self that I perceive self arises in him as true and established, or else he has a view like this. This very self of mine, the knower, that is sensitive here and there to this ripening of good and bad actions, is the self of mine that is constant, everlasting, eternal, not subject to change, and will stay just as it is into eternity. This is called a thicket of views, a wilderness of views, a contortion of views, a writhing of views, a fetter of views, bound by the fetter of views. The uninstructed run-of-the-mill person is not freed from birth, aging, and death, from sorrow, lamentation, pain, distress, and despair. He is not freed, I tell you, from suffering and stress. On the other hand, the person who is not beset with unfit views, through his or her not attending to ideas unfit for attention, and through his or her attending to ideas fit for attention, unarising fermentations do not arise, and arisen fermentations are abandoned. She attends appropriately. This is stress. This is the origin of stress. This is the cessation of stress. This is the way leading to the cessation of stress. As she attempts appropriately in this way, the 3 fetters are abandoned: identity view, doubt, and grasping at precepts and practices. These are called the fermentations to be abandoned. So I didn't go through all that detail at the class, of course, but you folks are more familiar with these teachings. Well, the how to put all of this together. I'll just tell you how I put it together at this time. One is that the Buddha expressed many times that his main interest was the human experience, not some abstract metaphysical system that he wanted to make complete and consistent. but the human experience, particularly the human experience of suffering, which he viewed as the main problem for people. Now, he obviously didn't use the word suffering because he didn't speak English, but he used the word dukkha, which takes in more, which takes in things like anxiety, distress, unsatisfactoriness, not feeling at ease, unease, all of those things that we're all very familiar with. So that's what the Buddha's project involved, by and large, was addressing human suffering or distress. So that things that contributed to that end, he was interested in and encouraged and taught about. Things that did not contribute to that end, he tended to set aside. So he also expressed in these teachings that it was not necessary to have a theory of personality in order to practice his teachings. In fact, it could actually interfere, that it's quite possible to live a satisfactory, beneficial, and fulfilling life without having any particular theory of personality. So when the teaching is expressed, there is no self, that creates a particular problem for another teaching of the Buddha that was very essential. And that is the teaching regarding moral agency, which is expressed in the fifth remembrance. There are the five remembrances, that's another sutta. But the fifth remembrance is worded this way: I am the owner of my actions, heir to my actions, born of my actions, related through my actions, and have my actions as arbitrator. Whatever I do for good or evil, to that will I fall heir. So if there were no self whatsoever, it would be hard to have a concept of moral agency along with it. Because if there is no self, who is responsible for the actions that occur? And how do those consequences accrue? To whom do they accrue? So I think we're left with that. And in regard to this and other teachings of the Buddha, one way one might think about it is that he was an early phenomenologist, somebody interested primarily in the human experience, the human condition, and not in what we might call physics, metaphysics, the nature of things. And his teaching was directed in that way. He discouraged getting involved in a lot of metaphysical speculation. So he did encourage us to take care of our lives while recognizing that everything we encounter is our life, which is one way of summarizing Buddhist practice. So I think I'll stop there and uh, with the question about is there anything in these readings that you particularly find particularly resonate with or find confusing or disturbing? Is there another way of looking at this non-self notion? So I guess I invite you cautiously into the thicket of views as we go to our breakout section. And we'll return in a few moments and discuss it further. Again, thank you so much for being here.
I have to go, but thank you.
Okay. Okay.